Okay, hi. Are we live? If we are live, then I am starting now. Welcome to another virtual roundtable with Animation Express, the world's third largest information and services portal for the animation, VFX, comics, and gaming industry. Hi, I'm Anil Vanvari, the founder, CEO, editor-in-chief of the 20-year-old Indian television.com group, of which Animation Express is a part. Radioandmusic.com, India's largest TV and OTT fan destination, telechecker.com, are two of the other sites which fall under the group's umbrella. And there's indiantelevision.com, which is the largest as far as cable and satellite is concerned. And of course, advertising, media, OTT. We really have been around for 20 years, and we've done a great job, my journalists, that is. We also behind initiatives such as the 18-year-old Indian Tele Awards, the Content Hub, the largest gathering of creators of content for film, TV, OTT, and short-form content. Then there's VidNet, the largest gathering of those in the OTT ecosystem. The Video and Broadband Summit, which is for broadband and cable and DTH, as well as for the telcos who want to partake of this entire economy. Then we have the Media and HR Summit. Besides that, there's tons of other initiatives we really take part in. I also look after the world's largest video content markets, MIPCOM, MIPTV, ATF, and eSports Bar for India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh. But this is not about me or us. This is about what e-learning or the edutech companies have been up to and what kind of content they've been serving, how has it been working out, and what is the way forward for e-education. The country is currently in a youth bulge phase. It has the largest youth population in the world, a veritable army of 600 million young people under the age of 25. Fully 28% of the population is less than 14 years of age. And with more than 30 babies being born every minute, population growth rates are expected to remain around 1% for years. India is expected to overtake China as the largest country on earth by probably in another 2 or 3 years, and to grow to about 1.5 billion people by 2030, up from about 1.34 billion in 2017. With more than 1.5 million schools and about 260 million students in, I have a number of 2015-16, maybe somebody on the panel has more current numbers. India is the world's second largest school system after China. Over the past, China is, of course, right now, we shouldn't be speaking too much about it, but it has the second largest school system. Over the past 2 decades, the tertiary student population has increased sixfold from 5.7 million in 1996 to an estimated 36.6 million in 2017-2018. The number of universities has grown from 190 in 1991 to 903 in 2017 and 18. While the number of colleges have exploded, 18,000 new colleges were established between 2008 and 2016 alone. That's more than 6 new colleges a day. The number of technical institutions offering programs at various levels jumped up by a whopping 1,278% between 1980 and 2012. While there were only 794 such institutions in 1980, that number is now higher than 10,000. Now, here's another alarming fact. More than 27% of the country's youth are excluded from education, employment, or training, while the overwhelming majority of working Indians are employed in the informal sector. Many of them in agriculture, often in precarious engagements, lacking any form of job security or labor protection. So that's a bit of a background about what's been about our education system, though I can go into the forms of education, the different affiliations, the different approvals that you have to get, but I'll leave that to the experts who are with me today. I've got Michael Borkowski, who's a co-founder and CEO of Brainy. Hi, Mike, are you there?
Yes, hi, how are you?
I'm very well. Where are you speaking from, Mike? Do I call you Mikhail or do I call you Michael? Do I call you Mikhail or Michael?
It's Michal.
Yeah. Michal. Yeah. Hi, Michal.
Thank you.
So great to have you here. How's the weather out there in Warsaw?
Oh, it's quite hot. It's like 30 degrees Celsius, which is hot in Poland.
And how's the COVID pandemic treating the Poles?
Poland went quite easy through all of this. The country shut down very early. So I think we are at one of the lowest numbers in Europe.
Great to have you. And we'll come to your portal, the services that you're offering after I speak to. Next, I have Gaurav Kumar. He's the President Corporate Development of Upgrad. Gaurav, good to see you.
Hey, Anil. Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, very fine. I mean, I'm sweating a bit because it's warm here where I am in Bombay. I'm sure you're from Bombay too. It's pretty warm. Then I have Kaustubh Khade, the Director of Product from Byju's. Good to see you, Kaustubh.
Hi, Anil. Pleasure being here.
You're in Bangalore, or are you in another part of the country?
Bangalore.
Great to have you on board. Then I have Bias Dev Ralan, who's a co-founder and CEO of Next Education India Private Limited. I pronounced your name right, did I, Bias?
Yeah, it's Bias.
Yeah, good to see you. Yeah, then there is Prabhat Pankaj, the Chief Technology Officer of Aptins. Hi, Prabhat. Yeah, and we have the lone lady on the panel, Sonia Huja.
Hi, Anil, how are you?
I'm alive. I'm very happy to be alive in this, where the cases are really mounting so highly in India and in Bombay especially.
And down for another 30 days.
Yeah. Ashutosh Kumar is the CEO and co-founder of Textbook. Good to have you.
Hey, hi Anil. Hi everyone.
Good to have you all, you over here. And then I have all the way from Georgia in the US who flew to Georgia just to be a part of this virtual roundtable. Uday Reddy, the founder and CEO of Yup TV, and Yup Master.
Hi Anil. Hi everyone. I'm still new to this space, so.
Yep, you're the baby, right?
Yeah.
But you're one of the pioneers in the OTT ecosystem.
Yeah.
So you started way back around 10 years ago?
Right, it's 2007.
That's 13 years ago. So you're like a big daddy here, apart from not in the education space, but in the technology space. So great. Now, your thoughts on what I've begun with. I gave some background. Anyone wants to throw up some thoughts on that? Does Kostap want to talk about that? Or does Gaurav want to talk about what I just threw up, the background to the conversation that we're going to have? I laid out some, there are so many schools, there's so many institutes, so many people are uneducated. Yeah?
Right. Do you want us to go into the numbers or just?
No, just talk about this. Have some touch-feely things.
Right. Well, I think obviously nobody saw this coming, right? So it's been a bit of a battleground for everyone, right? I think around March is when things started to heat up. And I think from a Byju's perspective, we took some immediate good calls, right? Content has always been like our main suit, right? And what we did immediately was on the 13th of March, we put out free access to all our content, right? And that was
I can't hear you at all.
Hello?
Yeah. Now you've come back again.
Right. Yeah. So like I was saying, back in March when this pandemic hit and suddenly we started getting the scale of things, right? The first thing that we thought was fairly important was to open up content to all users, right? That is our forte, right? Having good quality content and ensuring that it's democratized and people have access to it. And around the 13th of March is when we first made it live. So all 4 to 12 graders to this date in India across the globe actually can go on to Byju's ELearning app and start consuming content. And I think that was like the first piece that went very well for us. And shortly after that, what we started understanding is that schools are going to be hit, and they're going to be hit in a big way. And once that piece started unraveling with exams being postponed and JEE pushed up to September and so on and so forth, we started understanding that there is a lack of structured education that parents and students will both feel. Right, the fact that you've been going to school non-stop between 8 to 12 or 8 to 1 or 3 or whatever, right? And suddenly that whole period is taken away from you. We knew that teachers are going to face a problem just scaling up online, which means there are going to be large portions of time where kids are just going to be sitting at home and not learning, which is why the second phase of what we did was also fairly important. We put out live classes, and that went out, I think, on the first week of April or so. And it's done superbly. So, I mean, all of us are in this Black Swan event, but we're in a sector that has been, I'd say, blessed to have some positive impact. And I think with live classes, we were seeing a lot of that. So that's been the story. And I'm sure everybody here has had sleepless nights, and everybody's been working around the clock. So it's no different over here at Byju's. In, I think, the first month and a half, we were putting out one product every 2 weeks or 1.5 weeks, and iterations, ensuring that funnels are up and running. Logistics took a hit, so a lot of our time went in just equating how to get that back up and running and what are the other alternatives. It's been an interesting time, but I think we're now reaching a place where we're back to interesting R&D pieces and seeing what the future is.
Anil, you're on mute, I guess.
Yeah. Do you want to showcase the content you've been serving and what's been used by the students who've been accessing Byju's?
Mm-hmm.
Himani, can you roll, or do you have? Will that come later?
I'll just put that.
Himani, can you roll Byju's show reel?
Yeah.
Yeah. It should take us a second to smooth it the next time round. Share the screen, please.
बचपन से ही मुझे वक्त से पहले पहुंचने की आदत थी। बड़े होते होते ये आदत कहीं दब सी गई थी, दबी थी, मगर खोई नहीं थी। अब इस आदत को फिर से जगाना है, उसे एम्बिशन में बदलना है और वक्त से पहले अपने करियर गोल्स को पाना है। सीखिए टॉप यूनिवर्सिटी से और पाइए प्लेसमेंट सपोर्ट। अपग्रेड ने दिया मेरी एम्बिशन को पुश। अप्लाई नाउ at upgrad.com. Upgrad, रहो ambitious.
Actually, Himani actually gave this a segue to Upgrad. We'll show yours after Upgrad. That should be perfect. So now I hand you over to.
I'm glad somewhere we stole the show, you know.
Ronnie has been stealing this show ever since, right from the beginning, Gaurav. Ronnie and the team at Upgrad have been stealing this show. Of course, Byju's has been getting the unicorn status and but continue, please. Yeah. Oh, I'm not on mute, am I? Gaurav, can you tell us a bit about the experiences?
Oh, sure. No, thanks, Anil. I guess very interesting times. I guess hopefully most of us will agree that COVID has definitely done billions of dollars of advertising spent for EdTech as a sector, and maybe has also fastened the adoption curve for users, because pushing e-learning always have been a push product, and learners always have had preference for traditional model of learning and delivery, and the way it looks like, past 3-4 months, and if this continues, and it looks like it will continue, the adoption curve will be far more earlier than what we anticipated. So that's a tectonic shift which we believe is happening in the overall e-learning space, whether K-12, whether upskilling, whether higher ed, or so on. To put things in context, if any of us have been providing LMS solutions or live learning platforms, or content to higher education institutions or to schools, if the degree of resistance has come down significantly. People are more open, and maybe it is because of the compulsion of COVID, but that's a big shift in the customer mindset as well. However, it will, I guess, the problems will become far more glaring in coming months once the content or platform or tech comes to test, because what will start with a forced adoption will eventually get into selective, and customer will become more intelligent. Customer will look for right tech, right content, right learning experience, and whichever part of the puzzle we guys are trying to solve. So that will also see a bit of consolidation going forward in the sector, the way we see. Another I guess big challenge, or rather at the same time big opportunity for us would be to how do we use this to ensure accessibility, which has been a perennial problem for the wider sector, particularly school education, higher education, is solved to a certain extent. We believe, apart from what we are doing, the larger distribution networks like OTTs, like telcos, wider government adoption, big opportunity for us should sooner or later happen in the industry, so that the solutions are scaled to the required level, and it reaches out to right set of folks, deserving set of folks. Apart from people who have been able to afford buying solutions, and whether it is K-12, whether it is higher ed, but maybe accessibility challenges can be solved if a very concentrated partnership between public and private agencies. And private ones, I say, I don't only mean EdTech, I'm repeating larger distribution platforms like OTTs, like telcos. So that would be my early two bit on that, and happy to engage further and answer any specific ones.
Great. So thank you for giving that overview. I'm on to Mihal. We'll play your video later, definitely. Mihal, can we have Mihal's video before you start speaking? Imani, get it right now. That's great. If it's not working, I'm going on with the question. Okay, it's started.
Hello guys, my name is Nicholas.
Hello.
I go to a public school, and I may say that the math education is not the greatest sometimes.
What I have a problem with is the way my teachers explain things. Sometimes I just don't understand.
I just want to know the different methods by which the question can be solved.
I typically don't have educational problems because of how smart I am.
I usually ask questions of maths and science because they are the basic subjects.
I usually go double check my studying or my information that I was provided first.
Brainy has been there for me when I got stuck, so I started answering to help others.
Just writing my answer in my examination, I remember that I have answered this question in Brainy. If I were to share
Sorry, guys.
Brainy.com,
I'm sorry, guys. I think what we will do is we'll run all the videos because I think that lined it up in a particular way, and I think that's been, I broke the, because my humble apologies to the audience and to all the speakers on the program. My humble apologies. I should have followed the cue that they had given. But let's get on to Mihal. Of your offering, let us know what's been happening as far as your offering is concerned.
Sure. So Brainy is an online learning community for students, parents, and teachers, and they come to us with the main use case being homework. So whenever a student struggles with any school-related question, they can help each other. And what we do as a service is that we add expert supervision to the knowledge exchange that is happening between students. We also have thousands of experts answering questions that are particularly popular or super tough that students cannot answer on their own. And commenting to your previous question about like what we see in the market is that like we see four primary problems. So on one hand, there is on the student side, students really like this face-to-face interaction with their friends at school. And many of them even like the online learning, but from like building friendships, all of that is to big extent gone. For parents, what has happened over last months is that parents had to become teachers. So now they are responsible for looking for amazing educational materials to make sure that their kids are engaged, that they are developing their educational path. Then on teachers, like teachers had to figure out technology. They had to figure out how to engage students who may not have access to a device, so they could join online classes. There were many problems on their end. And the fourth problem is that there is a huge group around the world, and as you mentioned in India, of students who are excluded from learning right now. And just because they don't have a device, they don't have a high quality connection to the internet, they're just excluded and they are getting behind. And I think this is like all going into one big problem and one huge opportunity. That big problem is that the system that was supposed to provide equal access to education, or as equal as possible, kind of was dismantled over last months. So now, like what we see is a huge push from the governments to make sure that they equalize access to education, especially in the state-funded systems. But the opportunity here is that what I think people understood is that personalization is very important. So students who want to go in their own speed, explore materials on their own, and many online education services like we do represent here today allow them to do that. So if someone wants to spend more time learning linear equations, they can totally do that, even if the class would like to move forward faster. Or if someone struggles with something, they can take their time and learn more on that topic so they can master that one specific skill. We cannot hear you, Anil. You're muted again.
Sorry. So you help parents to kind of get more informed about what the kid. So in terms of increase during the speed during the lockdown period. Am I still muted? Or can you hear me or can't you?
You're breaking up quite a lot, but I think I got the sense.
Yeah, I'll have to figure out. I've got a 100 Mbps pipe over here.
Yeah,
and it's still breaking up.
Yeah, I think the word to many people try to connect to the internet, and then it doesn't work as well as in the past. So yeah, from our service is used by students who struggle with something. So when they try to solve a problem, so let's say an exercise, they get stuck. And this is where we help help them get unstuck, and it's the same with parents. From our usage perspective, we have around 250 million monthly active users around the world. In India, that number is 25 million, and that grew really nicely after the pandemic started and the school systems were shut down to a big extent. We also see a huge spike in activity, so engagement of students in India specifically. During this time, because as I mentioned before, on one hand, we help them to get unstuck, we help them to learn more efficiently. But on the other hand, because we are a community, we build on this social behavior of them building relationships, feeling like a one community rather than just them learning on their own in front of a device.
You're again mute. Anil, you're on mute again.
Okay, this is the first time this is happening. Thank you for that, Mihal. I move on to the only lady on the panel, Sonia. Sonia, can you give us a bit of a background about your?
Sure. So, Emergence Learning, we're a B2C.
Faring since lockdown.
Yeah. So, no, we can hear you.
Yeah.
So, Emergence Learning, we're a B2B and a B2C player in the professional education space. So what we do is on the B2C side, we offer learning programs anywhere from 3 months to 6 months long, whether they be upskilling or placement-oriented programs in very specific or new age skill sets, whether it be analytics or finance or tech or any sort of new age skill sets, fintech, etc. We pioneered the idea of pro degrees as such, where we tied up with large players within the industry to provide these courses. And we did this both in the classroom and the online format. So from a classroom perspective, we've got all these campuses across the country where our learners used to go in and they used to undertake these programs. And then we used to offer the same thing online for those that didn't want to actually walk into a classroom. On the B2B side, we did a lot of digital transformation programs for large companies where we took over their onboarding or the entire life cycle of a worker's journey, all the way from when he joined the company to all the way to his mid-managerial level skill set requirements. So that's what we've been doing. We're about 7 years old, headquartered here in Bombay. We've got an office in Dubai as well to tap the Middle East market. So all was going well until obviously COVID hit and our classroom business took a royal beating. Essentially, in March, when the order was to shut down all of the classrooms. I think that's when we got hit the hardest, and actually were one of the few players in the industry that frankly got hit for that particular time frame. But I think, like everybody here, we adapted very, very quickly. In my view, I think the online education is always seen as an option to augment traditional learning, or as Gaurav said, the adaptation of the online learning, while I think it was coming along even before COVID, I think it was slow as compared to maybe the North American markets or maybe other Western markets. I think we were slightly slower. I think what COVID did was it forced us, it forced the learners, it forced companies like ours, where we totally moved online literally within 15 days. So while we do have centers everywhere, I think all of our current offerings, whether be on the B2C or the B2B side, are completely done online today. Now, I think as some of the panelists have said, that has different challenges. And now, while we've figured out how to get the learners to be a little bit more adaptable, I think now we have to ensure that as a company, we are responsible to meet learning outcomes. And I think that's the main thing that we are here focusing on. And how do you ensure, at least for us, where the classroom learning experience promised a certain outcome for young learners, how do you replicate that in the online space? And I think that is the challenge. But at least the hard part is done. I think there are a few things right now to be thankful for COVID for sure. But at least one thing is the acceleration of e-learning adoption. And I think that would be one area or one positive or an opportunity that we would take away from here.
All right, I move on to the to share. Hello, Ashutosh. I'm again mute, am I? I'm again mute. No, okay.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
So I'll talk about testpool.com. So we are almost 6 years old platform preparing students for more than 150 government recruitment exams. So you can say most of our students come from smaller towns of India because that's where the lack of private job opportunities are there. So the COVID has a sort of a mixed feedback or mixed numbers coming up. So after the lockdown, as everyone said, all institutions were locked down, government sort of canceled or postponed most of the government exams. So just after the lockdown, there was a little drop in terms of engagement because most of the students were sort of adjusting with the new normal, with the changes and a lot of news that would happen, that would in the market. But after that, we sort of got a very good engagement, enrollment in the courses. So in last 2 months, we have seen more than 18 lakh course enrollment by almost 2.5 lakh students. That was massive. So out of our 1 crore user base, we got around 4 million in last 1 year, which we see that's going to go multiply going ahead. So in long term, I see this was a good opportunity. I guess e-learning is the golden era right now. A lot of good, efficient education will happen going ahead because tech has some sort of proven against the traditional way of learning where good quality teachers can reach out to even every corner of India. A lot of internet devices problem have been sorted out these days. So there's a lot of good things to happen going ahead. And in terms of retention, I guess, as again, Gaurav mentioned, the adoption curve is going to be much faster. That means that the resistance that the students had earlier with the biased mindset of that this whole traditional and the offline learning system, that's going to change a lot. And when they sort of see the difference in the learning outcomes coming up and they experience the wow feature that digital platforms are able to provide, I guess is going to change the stickiness with the e-learning a lot. A lot of exciting things are going to happen.
Thank you for that. Now, yep. Continue, please. If you have anything.
Yeah. No, I'm done. Yeah.
Okay, great. So, Prabhat.
Hi. Yeah, hi, Neil. Yeah, hi, Neil.
Yeah, hi.
And I'm from Aptens, and we have developed this Aptens in 2017. Actually, we launched this application in 2017 only, actually commercially. And Aptens is an innovative app focused on developing aptitude among class 5 to 12 students. It enhances the critical thinking skill sets like reasoning, problem solving, evaluating, analyzing, and decision making. At Aptens, we believe that developing critical thinking skills are among the students. That's why we have created this rewarding platform. Rewarding means we believe screening time should be lesser as possible, and as in that screen time only students get a lot of insight for the same. So that's the reason we have created different modules giving the challenges for 15 questions, and on the basis of that performance, we reward them as a different physical goods and all. We have also onboarded student friends, a student can you can say ask their classmate and all to come to the platform. At the same time, we have also onboarded their parent. Like parent can they see their reports, like how he's behaving, how their performance is from last 1 year, and how is the performance for the particular subjects. As of now, we are covering 3 subjects like logical, maths, and reasoning. We have also onboarded teachers so that teachers can see the performance of the whole class as well as the performance of the individual student, and so that they can get the complete feedback from both sides, from teacher to parent to you can say student, and so at the same time we have also created you can say some kind of engagement factor, we have created a ranking system, like a student can see their performance, their relative performance, like how they are performing with their friends, maybe in the cities, maybe in the you can say overall, or maybe in their schools as well. So this kind of platform we have developed for the same. As of now, as I said, we have you can say launched this application commercially around 3 years ago. So we do not have that much users as most of the founders we have, but we are growing fast just because of this COVID-19. Our user base has been increased by around 3-fold, I would say, and mostly our customers are schools. As of now, we are working with more than 100 schools all over India only, and a lot of schools were facing some problem just because of COVID-19. So to help them, or you can say to solve their problem, we also created a new applications that was based of online conferencing tools. We created you can say test engines, so that they can some assignment to their student, and they can see the result on the live. Also, we have created a solution in such a way that they used to upload the questions question to our platform as a subjective question, I would say, like objective and subjective question. So this way we have solved a lot of schools problem where they were facing to overcome with you can say this offline education system to online education. That's it.
Thank you for that. And so, Bias, it's over to you now. And finally, after that, but Bias, the first.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't catch the last part. So, but look, I think I'm the odd man out here who's trying to go and chase the schools rather than the consumer. But
Bias, I think even Prabhat said he's working closely with schools, so he was impacted. But he found a solution around the COVID where the schools were shut. You're not the only one.
No, I don't think I'm the impacted one. Look, once you have survived for 13 years in this country, you can survive anything. So don't worry. My business doesn't change, and my balance sheet also doesn't, unfortunately. But somehow, but I'm saying is, look, coming to schools, look, we were always building technology-based solutions for the schools, whether it was trying to digitize the books, whether it was earlier changing the blackboard to digital board, and then to help them automate some of their processes in the school, or help them do the modern labs and activities and everything. Fundamentally, a year back, we put everything on what we call the Next Learning platform, which is right from discovering a potential student in the website to delivering him personalized education till class 12. All can be done on one platform. And from last year, I was going to the schools and telling them, look, you need to have something of this sort. And everybody will sort of push me around saying, look, no, why we need this, that, And now this year, once this has hit and people have started realizing that, this is something of a thing which is not going to go away. Right? I mean, look, schools are going to be on off for at least 18, 20 months. Let's not kid ourselves, right? I mean, it's not going to happen in 3 months unless until we are finding some questionable solutions. real solutions are going to take 18 months. And schools still are going to struggle and move in phases from purely online to mixed learning to completely being physical. And they're fundamentally going to need a core infrastructure which helps them do all that. Let me give you a point example. When all this COVID Express thing started, everybody's saying, I can use Hangout. Why do I need platforms, right? I can use anything. So slowly you have to make them understand conferencing solution is not a classroom solution. Classroom solution in the end fundamentally has to tell you whether the child was watching the screen, whether he was smiling, whether he was going to some other app, can he mute you, can't he mute you? There are a lot of things. In the same way, like when people talk of test systems, you will need to have to come up with fundamentally secure test systems, which can record the child for the time, figure out what he was doing. So we are building the system for a school to run, not a Microsoft Teams or a Google Hangout or anything, like a system school run. And that's what we launched in April. So when I was giving it free, close to, I think 2,000 odd schools were using it, close to 500,000 kids were coming, 500,000 lectures were happening. And after a month and a half, we have moved it to like a paid version, fundamentally because I don't have money to keep on paying for the free bandwidth. So now we are running, I think around 250 odd schools in the country are running that platform. We are having some hit because of the government's inconsistent policy around online learning in some states. My hope is that over a 15, 20 days or in a maximum a month, once people get into this reality, that even if you open a school, students are not going to show up, not all of them. You will have to still stream a class, or it might get postponed if the situation goes worse. People will start adapting these platforms, and that's what we are trying to do. And hopefully, some transformation will happen around that front.
Great, but I'm just hoping for the sake of young children that schools do open. And because in France, I know that my friends' kids are going to school and they're having a great time.
France did that, but then they said, okay, only up to the age 12. Because still that is the immunity is the least, right? See, the problem is not that, right? The problem is like, your zone can be in containment zone and the school might be in green zone. So fundamentally, disruptions are going to keep on happening. So the school has to be able to on off, sort of at a choice, as the choice of the parent or of the conditions they are in. That's what we are trying to fundamentally tell the schools, that that's why they need to digitize all their processes rather than just fee payment, etc.
Great, thank you, Annie, for that view of yours. Finally, the baby in the room, and the oldest baby in the room, Uday Reddy. So you're a baby in the education space, but you're a giant in the OTT space by virtue of being one of the oldest players.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about yourself, and you still haven't launched your platform, have you?
Yeah, we've launched. So for everyone, just to give a quick background, I'm the founder CEO of Yup TV, started in 2007, actually as an OTT platform to deliver Indian content to the diaspora. So I was in Nortel traveling all around the world. So with that vision, what we have achieved today is we are the #1 OTT platform for diaspora audience outside India, as Yup TV as a platform for live TV from India. So again, now coming back to OTT as a definition, actually a lot of people think about entertainment. OTT is over the top, over a public internet. And entertainment is video content, and delivery is through internet. The same way is education is going to be another OTT platform. It's an education content which is delivered through OTT. Even healthcare is going to be the same way, I think. So just to give why we started is, I always had a passion in education from day one. And coming from a tier 2 city, from Warangal, even today, a lot of the tier 2, tier 3 cities, they're not able to get to the top coaching institutions, top faculty, more than affordability, sending the kids to the top metro cities to get education. These are the challenges I've seen from the day one. And being in the technology space, we're just launching something together with BSNL in India for the OTT space. So education came up and I jumped on it. It was pre-COVID. It has nothing to do with COVID. So we started in February, and February 15th, I met with the first faculty teacher. And then basically I told, one, the faculty should be available to all the students in the country. And technology will sort it out. And then we have to make sure that the platform should be very close to offline experience. in spite it's offline, whether it is interactive, able to answer the questions instantaneously through the day, or having a testing module where you have a personalized recommendation. So we kept that spec and we got the team together, and then immediately the pandemic, it started, and then we really took it, and in a month, we've launched the platform in April. Actually, what I took 5 years in FT, we did in a 1 month, and thanks to the entire team. It's amazing. We have picked up the top faculty from all the top schools, put the internet streaming platform. We have put the apps on Apple TV, Xiaomi apps and all together. So overall, we had a great platform, but coming back to the challenges, coming to the tier 2 or tier 3 or tier 4 or rural areas, which we wanted to start, the issue about the devices are there, the technology from an internet is there, but the parent mindset still, if you go to tier 2, 3, tier 4 and rural areas, giving a laptop to parents, to kids, or to Android is still a challenge. So, but having said that, the future, what we thought, giving the quality education to rural areas, to towns, with a vision we started. I think the pandemic, Corona has expedited the education of the online education, has really expedited by 2-3 years, because in just last 2 months. So everybody, every parent everywhere knows that they have to do online. I think metro cities and towns are in good situation as compared to the rural areas. But overall, I think the online is going to be the future. And my vision, my thought process is that both will coexist, offline and online together. I think online is going to, supplement the offline, and there's a lot of synergies of being an online education. That's all I have. Yeah.
Yeah, but you began with IIT entrance exams and NEET courses, haven't you? To start with, how is that connected with rural? So a lot of folks from Andhra want to get into IITs, do they?
Yes, yes. So it's a huge, you see, there are two big institutions, don't want to name it, but typically, if you go into those institutions, only one institutions will have the top faculty, and the rest of institutions, nobody cares. So the students looking at the marketing TV ads, they would spend a lot of money and send their kids, but only one center has the top teachers. So what we try to do is put up the top faculty and deliver this online education more into an offline, equivalent to or better than offline, through internet as a technology, and give it to rural. See, democratization means, everybody talks about democratization should have a meaning to the per capita income. What is the per capita income of the country? That should be the factor we should look at. And we as a FTV, we're seriously looking at affordability and providing a top quality education in Indian market. And I mean, my kids go to US, even till 12th public school, we've not paid a single rupee, and that the quality of education is so good. I think within India as well, because of the scale, you will see a significant affordability coming into picture. We have seen, Anil, in the telecom side, or even in the OTT side, in 93, it used to be 500 rupees a minute for the calling US. What is today? It is free. So same is going to happen in the education sector in the country. And I think this current situation is only going to expedite that.
Great. You set the stage. Does everyone agree with you there, that there's going to be a real change? Whoever wants to throw up his views, please, or her views. Is there going to be affordability coming into education, or is it going to be a metro kind of a phenomenon?
So I'd like to say something. So EdTech is the real solution for the mass of students that we have in India. So India is a very big country, a lot of students are there, and majority of the young populations actually belong to the rural India. And as everyone said, the core problem that India actually has is the lack of a good quality teacher. So we have good teachers, but very small in number. And whoever are there, they sort of go to bigger cities or bigger institutions because of their career growth. And this is the core fundamental problem, because if you have a lot of students, if you cannot deliver or transform a good education, learning or knowledge to a student, the thing is going to change. And this fundamentally is going to change, like say, going ahead. And this will have a big impact, definitely. And as in EdTech, it is a front load system where in the beginning you have to build technology, get a lot of faculties, teachers, but with time you sort of keep building the repository of the content. And that's where the cost of delivering the content goes lower and lower and lower. And that's where you sort of achieve a good affordability in the India or in the market.
See, one of the things is here is like, technology fundamentally has to be deflationary, then only it adapts. You know, I mean, a lot of solutions I see in the market, like fundamentally the way we approach at least the problem and know that it will happen across the countries. Like today, if you look at a typical book set cost in the country is close to like 3,000 to 4,000 rupees. So if technology can deliver the proper curriculum with all its benefits of being online and being accessible anytime, multiple formats, so everything in a close to 2,000, 2,500 rupees a year, that's when you have reached a, and that's what our pitch to most of the schools is. Look, today at Next, you can get in 200 rupees, your live lectures, your content, your ERP, your books, everything done. So you get one box, implement in your school, 200 rupees a child a month you pay, you only need to get notebooks. That's a kind of price point with which the technology will get adapted. Technology will, look, coaching is a different market. You know, selling ambitious to a go-getter parents is different. So the two discretionary income as well as ambition income categories I put. The core fundamental education, you can't have a solution. It has to beat a textbook. It has to beat textbook plus notebook and a, you know, average teacher combination. And at a price point at which people can afford. Look, you know, put you in a context. Even people talk of private schools. 75% of private schools in this country don't charge more than $1,000 a month. You know, so you cannot have solutions which are like super fancy. You know, I've been going around almost for 12 years, and that's what my understanding is. And that's why I struggled for so many years to launch online solution. It fundamentally has to be super cheap to go for the masses. Self-selection is different game. We are talking of where schools are going to make it mandatory for everybody, or the governments are going to make it mandatory. It has to be half the cost of textbook and a notebook cost today in the country.
Just to add to what they have said, I guess, see, let's take the schools, for example. You go to a school principal, and whereas you need to back me up on this, many times a principal will tell you that, you know, every week I have 5 to 7 different edtech providers coming to sell a solution. Mm-hmm. And we all know the aptitude of the principal or his or her own understanding of technology and edtech solutions to be able to take a, you know, well-informed call on what solution works for my school, my kid, my teacher. So that's a big problem. Second is, you know, we still have out of 270 million, and Anil gave that number, out of that 120 million kids are in public schools, that is state boards, where teachers' quality is a major challenge. And if you go and tell them that here is one technology solution, why don't you do something? Considering their own time of task is a major issue, because, you know, if you go and try to understand time on task for a teacher, and time on task for the uninitiated is essentially the time a teacher spends on the core academics, is less than 40% in wider public school education system. Unless you, so this guy has gone through a very bad recruitment, you know, process. B.Ed, M.Ed education remains a major problem. You know, the quality of what we do in B.Ed, M.Ed, and more importantly, do we ever touch, usage of technology in classrooms? Are we training our teachers in B.Ed, M.Ed for the usage of technology in classrooms? That remains a challenge. His own domain knowledge remains a challenge. Recruitment remains a challenge. And then you go and tell him that here is another solution I want you to implement. You know, so it becomes a very catch-22, and that's where most of the, if you analyze whatever Niti Aayog is trying to do in various states through, you know, or yesterday or today, probably World Bank has again committed 500 million for school education improvement programs, but most of them, they don't necessarily end up yielding very quality outputs, because people who are supposed to drive that, and I always believe teacher, because whatever we do, but the 45-minute conversation which takes place between those 4 walls we all are rooting for, that quality goes up, whether by the teacher or supplemented by some technology solution. So unless we build solutions which are very teacher centric, so that they become the evangelist of the solution, solving accessibility, and because that's the 120 million which has accessibility problem, major accessibility problem. The degree may vary, but they are the bottom of the pyramid. So I always think that once we talk of technology, and will this period, more importantly, help us overcome some of those challenges? Will we able to build such frugal solutions which will work with the recipient's aptitude, which is very important. And take an example of WhatsApp. All these teachers use WhatsApp because WhatsApp was very easy to use. Google we all use, because it's extremely easy to use. Are we looking at that kind of tech solutions? And I'm not looking at only content, because I know Vyas doesn't do only content. Vyas does the whole school management solution, LMS, CMS, ERP, attendance, finance, blah, 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 depending on the requirement of our school. So unless those solutions are built for public school, ecosystem, taking their aptitude in account, while we may solve some of the problems in terms of content adoption, but the systematic, long-term, sustainable adoption will always be a area of concern.
Yeah, see, for me, from my perspective, if I look at it as a person who wants to impart education, everything should be geared from the handset, because that's the most distributed device in the country. So is education looking at that aspect, the education side? This can be thrown open to Mihal, it can Prabhat, anybody who wants to take a shot at it can take it up. Rather than looking at a computer, a desktop, or a laptop, or an iPad, because a phone is available to everybody.
Yeah, and I think it has to be. And when we look at our numbers, 95% of students and parents who use Brainy, they use us on their mobile phones. And I think like here, India has the edge because that's the most common headset, and the rest of the world is often like lagging behind, but the share of mobile devices in online education is increasing everywhere. So the time when students were just sitting in front of a computer and trying to learn, like globally, is kind of coming to an end. And the question is, how do you create great education on this small screen that is appealing to students, but also that delivers amazing outcomes? And from my perspective, it's a no-brainer. This is the direction that must happen, not something that really is a choice.
Yeah. So yeah. Basically, what we are saying. Continue. Who's speaking?
Yeah. Actually, I would like to add some point. Our most of the schools are in the rural area, and we found some of the difficulty while delivering the content at that location. And when I gone through some kind of research, what I found, like according to the NSS data, 75 NSS data, like in India household, like you can say in India, like in the rural area, there are just you can say 15% of the person they are having some kind of internet connections, maybe mobile or computer and all. And in urban area in India, we have just 42% of the users who are having some kind of device like computer and all. If you talk about the you can say just smartphones and all, still like in India, just 23% of people are having you can say a smartphone, or just 4% in the rural area. So at this you can say ratio, it is very difficult to deliver the content to them, because they do not have, although we have as a tech company, we have the complete solutions for them, but we are not able to deliver it. Another observation for the mobile network is like in India, like around 72% of the users are using mobile phone as a hotspot. They do not have the broadband connectivity. Means if you talk about the mobile, you can say mobile network, it will be a kind of you can say just 5 to 10 KB of download per second. And around 15% of users are having broadband connections. Even though we go further, you would find like in this you can say mobile network, they are having Jio. Jio, they are providing around 38% of the internet connectivity. After Jio, like they are providing Airtel, which is having around 28%. And overall, if you see the signal strength, like around 40 to 50% of the like all of the signals are not not good. Means once we start streaming videos and all, they are facing a lot of issues like the due to this network is not proper. They are not able to get the content at the proper time.
Yeah.
And there is another drawback from our Indian perspectives. Like most of the you can say mobile provider, they are providing just 2 GB of data per day. Means technically they cannot watch the video for more than 1 hour, 2 hours. In fact, even though if they have recorded video, they will not be able to watch it for more than 1 or 2 hours. So that these are some drawbacks that India will have to take care, or maybe some other companies they will have to take care. Then only we will be able to deliver our content at the right time, at the right place.
Yeah. Hey, this is Uday here. I come from a wireless technology background, and
it's worth like 50 million concurrent.
Yeah. So I would like to say, add to that, is that in village, rural areas today, most of the OTT content is watched by rural areas. I don't think the challenge is not there on internet. 85 to 90% of the rural areas coverage is 4G, 3G and 2.5G. So when you encode any video stream into 6-7 bit rates, you're pretty much, you won't have any buffering. So today, you see Hotstar, people watching on cricket from the rural areas. So 85% of the technology barrier is solved in terms of of course, I think the smartphone penetration is less in rural areas. I understand, but I think streaming technology is not a challenge. I have myself come from a rural area. We have just launched with BSNL, we launched a Bharat Air Fiber in my village. We're getting 60 MB downlink, but that's an exception. But I'm saying that the biggest challenge the folks are seeing is the data rates. The 2 gig limitation per day or 1 gig limitation is a challenge for the school kids, because as 1 hour they finish the data. But otherwise, from a technology between 4G, 3G delivering to a mobile phone in a very good quality is almost possible. I think it's more challenge. So even in our case, within the launch of 1 month, we had for 35,000 registrations, and today simultaneously 80% of the traffic is coming from the mobile and in the tier 2, tier 3. So 85% of the traffic coming from the rural tier 3, tier 4 kind of places. So I think the telecom operators also, just like the way they have done on the OTT and internet, I think they will step up to support this education, my view, in the long run. Bundling, or could they give better data rates? That's the only way, or better capacity, maybe, unlimited or like 3 gig, 4 gig, whatever needed for education. That is the only challenge I see from a technology point of view.
I think add something here. I think other than
Uday, I'm going to step in here. You could go for a. Sorry, can I step in? You could go for instead of having a 1080 kind of a video quality, you could go for a 480p. Who's stopping you from doing that in these smaller, So you have adaptive bit rates for the rural areas where you have as you. Yeah. So Sonia, you wanted to say something? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, other thing I think, one thing I think we maybe need to do is slice and dice the market a little bit. We've got the professionals, we've got the schools. I think the rural areas have a different solution, while the urban ones probably will be better suited for edtech. But I think the other thing that we do need to solve for, and I think that is something that we're working on aggressively as well, is around time management and engagement. The feedback that we are receiving is that your time to attention, at least on these online platforms as such, needs to be limited, bite-sized. How do you give out extensive amounts of learning in a short attention span and in a very engaging manner? Because you could have all the tech in the world, but how do you get your 5-year-old or your 8-year-old or your 10-year-old to sit there for 4 hours or 5 hours as he would have done in a classroom? And I think that is something that is real, regardless of whatever tech that we throw out there and whatever solution that we throw out there. I think if I speak for myself, I have a 5-year-old. I'm actually not okay with him being in front of a computer for 4 hours. Now, how do you solve for that parent? How do you solve for other parents that have similar situations? I think that's something that we really need to think about because it's over a longer sustained period of time. This is not augmented learning. This is your primary learning.
It's 6 o'clock.
So I think it's something to think about.
If I may. Right.
Yeah.
See, school has been a great bundler of services over a time, over the last 2-3 decades as the urbanization happened, right? So school has been bundling the role of education plus being a, childcare plus taking care of his sports facilities and suddenly now his extracurricular to everything. And I think fundamentally this is now the great unbundling time of a school. You would be very surprised. I mean, I have run preschools in my life. I don't think a 5-year-old studies for more than 45 minutes in a school. Sure. The rest of his time goes into the whole social engagement. So I think the parents, when they have been outsourcing the learning role of child, that fundamentally will have to come back to the household. Now it will have its own set of challenges, like, whether you will need to again have a joint family, whether you need to have a support system, a lot of things will happen. But I'm saying is like school will have to be seen as a limited role of again providing just the academic and rest of the activities of child being done in the much more nearer environment, which was happening at a one integrated place in the pre-COVID times. That's the dynamics with which, it will change. I don't think students need to be in front of computer for 4, 5, 6, 7 hours just to study. And
but she made a very relevant point. Sonia made a relevant point. We have to have content which is engaging and which doesn't, it really gets the attention span and it really conveys what is to be conveyed. So our technology partner for this session is Autodesk. Samit, what have you seen in your experience? You've been working with a lot of edtech platforms. How do they get this to work? Samit.
Cool. I just would like to introduce myself. I've been quiet for a while and listening to all these biggies talking about content. So I come from a technology background. We have softwares for all the industries, be it manufacturing, entertainment, and all the other industries. But I've been dealing with a lot of e-learning companies. A lot of you guys are existing customers. And yes, when it comes to content, and what Sonia said, I completely agree. It's like, there's a huge competition in the market now. And it's not just for e-learning, for everything. And we don't have a content which matches or which is at par with the other one. The high chances that the interest of a kid or anyone would deviate. So content, yes, the quality also matters a lot because there are a lot of people who have the idea of creating content, but how do we execute also makes a lot of difference is what I feel. I would also want to know from you guys that, how difficult or how easy or, what is your need of executing the content, what is there in your mind? Like, when it reaches the audience, what is the kind of response which comes to you and what are the challenges? Just my thought.
I can take this, right? And just going back to a couple of questions earlier, right? Now we all understand that the time that we have with the child is very limited, right? And it's for a multitude of reasons, not being able to scale those platforms, not having his attention, and being able to sit a child down. I know that 4th graders are typically now going from like your whole day engagement to probably 3 classes at max a day, right? So content is part of the puzzle, right? Effectiveness in driving actual proficiency and having those drivers built into the system is become super critical now. So earlier, what was more of a passive consumption, you have 20 hours that the child is going to spend in a week in school. Now, distill down, right? We need to get to understanding where a child stands, those assessments a lot faster and a lot quicker, and being able to iterate on what is the content that he needs immediately. So yes, there is the quality of the content, yes, there is the engagement bits about the content, but through various iterations that we've done at Byju's, so on and so forth, right? One of the pieces that we moved to, and I'd say that about 4 years back, of maybe 4.5, 5 years back, we were also just a content platform, right? It was just a library or repository of videos that people would come on and then just consume. But over the last 2 years, we made this systemic shift towards bite-sized content pieces tied in with an assessment/interactions with the student, where you kind of like jolt the kid up or like wake him up and say, okay, let's try and find out where you are, right? And that can be done in like various ways. But I think that is the fundamental future of like a bunch of the e-learning pieces, to be able to consume, measure, and then again direct a user into the right flow. So content creation, yes, of course, it's super critical. What we feel that your base piece will obviously be your content platform, right? But how do you marry that with pedagogy, right? And obviously every subject has its own nuances and ways to direct users. How do you ensure that every single experience is kind of different? The way that I view, say history or science, history or geography, would be vastly different than how I would measure and adapt for somebody who's taking on maths. And that is something that is going to be very critical in the future. Scaling content, yes, of course, that is part of it. But are you doing it in efficient manner to ensure that you are also growing with that child, or that child is growing with you? That's going to be fairly critical. Sorry, Anil. I think you're mute.
Again. And with a lot of pictures, with a lot of visuals. So across, not just for school children, but even for the professionals who are going in for professional retraining. So it's easier to understand through visuals rather than through the textbook alone. Yeah, anyone can. I'm just throwing these thoughts out there. So is 2D the way? Is 3D the way? Or is?
I mean, it's an interesting
which are working across on all the platforms.
Probably take a stab at it purely because being Byju's, we're approached every day by like AR, VR outfits, right? And they're like, okay, can we do AR? Can we do VR, right? And obviously, we're coming from that space where we're talking about AR, VR, and then on this conversation, we're talking about low bandwidths in tier 2 or tier 3. There has to be some sort of balance. And what we feel is everything comes down to an ROI on the content creation. Right? You can have these superb experiences within 3D, but unless it has a monumental change or impact on learning in itself, right? It's kind of pointless. Then it's just a showy toy that has no effectiveness. And you can take this from, say, an in-depth model of a brain or an anatomy of a frog. There are tons of lovely examples that have been built out in experiences. But is that the core fundamental of your learning? And are you actually moving some proficiency metrics? Because if it's not that, then we're just all here to do engagement driving, right? And up evaluations. But I don't think that's our end goal, right? So
okay. Couple of points here. First, looks like the conversation is all about where a child is learning on his own, and if schools are disrupted, then I don't think we heard Sonia, we heard Beas. This is we should not be imagining a situation where a child will go on the app and learn on its own, because that's not the role schools were playing.
Sure.
And it was always aided, guided, facilitated, curated learning by school. We all went to school because we knew where to start. That the school knew what to teach and where to start and where to take a break and where to start again.
Right.
So the content, and because someone asked this question, the content has to be at some point of time, at least to overcome COVID-led challenges and schools disruption, built around schools, so that if the child is at home, the school has made some solutions by which they are engaging with kid, and kid is not expected to have a screen time one-to-one like a tab for hours. Sumit, I guess you asked that question.
Yep.
So that's one very important. AR, VR, to be fair, it's little far in the imagination, because if you look at whole HMD ecosystem, head-mounted devices ecosystem, you look at Magic Leap, you look at Oculus, whatever, it has not necessarily done too much. Entertainment, which was first frontier to adopt, is still a long way, because content creation is very expensive, device ecosystem is very expensive, the penetration is very poor. Third, and I guess I will urge Sonia and Ashutosh, because it looks like conversation has been hijacked for the school children, and we are
going into professionals too.
Yeah.
We're getting into professionals also, because if I'm going into upgrad and I want to upskill myself, I'd love to have some modeling, so that a person like me Would love to see some animated storytelling rather than simply a person looking at a camera and lecturing to me.
So more than that, see, I guess
I'd like a lot more interactivity.
So thankfully, unlike a school or unlike school-going children, learner in this segment is little evolved. You know, and whether it is an adult learning, whether you are teaching an undergrad, first, second, third year old kid, or first, second, third year kid, or a working professional who is in his mid-20s, early 30s and trying to upskill. See, one very big element which we introduced or which we have been latching to in our delivery is ensuring that the product which we build is as close to the physical world. So why do we go to college? We don't necessarily went to college just for studies. We had friends, we had peers, we had a hangout, we had an adda, and all of that. In our world of e-learning, we have gradually trying to overcome some of those expectations of a learner. So just to give an example, if you look at the larger e-learning platforms or MOOCs, the completion rate we all talk about in single digit. 100 people enroll, hardly 9, 10, 12 will eventually pass. For us, that number is 92, 93%. Whoever comes, 92 of them out of 100 will graduate, will complete the course. One big reason was we ensured that a learner has a dedicated mentor. Because one bigger reason for dropping out in adult learning was people either found it very easy or very difficult. If they found it very easy, they got bored. If they find very difficult, they will write an email asking their query. They will try to call someone on a very service line. Can you help me understand? I didn't understand E is equal to MC square. I don't know. And that just broke the learning flow. Here, what we did, we put a 24/7 mentor, and this mentor will be part of the content development team, has been in the profession for which this guy is upskilling for, or has taken the program for. And we made KRA of this guy, of the mentor, to ensure that learner query is resolved and learner completes his or her program. So if there is a cohort of 50 and if there is one mentor attached to it, so that mentor, one bigger KRA is out of 50, what percentage have completed and what is the NPS because of overall delivery and mentorship they get. One. Second was peer. I guess this is a much overused, abused word, peer learning, but we took this little more seriously because we were competing with a physical classroom model at times. And we said, how do I ensure that peer learning happens at a prerequisite level or more than what people have been otherwise experiencing, and that feel of a batch that are we, you and me and Anil, me and Vyas, we and Samit are part of the same class, and we are doing a data science, masters together. How does that happen? That doesn't happen in e-learning environment otherwise. We tried breaking that through peer learning, which has worked very, very well. Third, a bigger point is the sheer existence of us is because higher education institutions have not necessarily been able to do justice. Their ability to connect with industry, connect with whatever employment scenario is, what the day zero skill sets are, has been always a challenge. So we said, if we are not able to solve that problem, then our we will go the same road, where eventually our existence will be under question. So without exception, every program is built by an industry practitioner or a set of industry practitioners. So to give an example, if we are doing a 1-year product management program, then it has to be built with a head of product management for a leading OTT, head of product management for a leading e-commerce, head of platform for a leading cab aggregator. And we will have 5, 7, 10 of them come together and build the whole curriculum and deliver. So the efficacy of it goes much better. For example, if a Vyas comes and talks about the challenges in school education, receptiveness at Gaurav's part will be much better because I know the guy has slogged 13 years. Similarly, a guy who has done product management for a blue chip, everyone's dream coveted job, and if that guy comes and delivers you a product management whole program, the receptiveness at the learner part is much, much better. So we have seen that doing lots of good for us, and you will be surprised. Once we look at the NPS, these are the 2-3 things which I just talked about. Always have a spike versus rest. People always appreciate these elements of learning much, much better. last 20 seconds, the bigger opportunity we see is the online education, online degrees now opening up. I'm sure most of you have followed, whether NIRF 100, and now we believe there will be another 150 universities added, close to 270, 280 universities will be allowed. Is with higher education institutions facing a slump in their enrollment. You go to colleges in Pune, you go to colleges in Wardha, you go to colleges in NCR, and they will tell you, we believe enrollment will be an issue in the fresh year. And many people may opt for online education. Many people may opt for online education in the first year. Colleges will say, study online in the first year and come for another 2 years or another 1 year to the campus. There we believe there is a greater opportunity because it opens up a completely new market for everyone, and your appetite to invest in the product, in the tech, in the market will be much, much better. Because whether we like it or not, if I'm doing a product management program, my best case scenario is 5,000 enrollment, 10,000 enrollment in a year. But if I'm doing an undergrad BCom, it is not impossible to think 200, 300, 400,000 enrollments going forward. So there we see definitely lots of investment coming in the sector, and hopefully greater degree of online adoption in the higher education segment.
Yeah, so I'm looking at a future. Let's say what you said, first year college, you do the entire program from home. For that, this is not only to you, Gaurav, it's open to everyone, and even schools, even to make Mihal. So isn't content going to be very, very essential? And the way you create the content, the way you edit that content, the way you film it, the way you produce it, what are the different iterations you throw into it? How do you explain a particular topic so that it can be accessed anywhere? And that is a repository which stays with you. And what tools do you use to produce that content? For education is headed to, and you've got a lot of experience in OTT. So the entertainment side. So we're becoming beyond just plain classroom or plain, there's mentorship needed, but content is going to be key. Am I right or wrong? Anyone wants to throw their hat in the ring on this point?
Well, see, look, absolutely true. In fact, look, I'll tell you, it's a reverse problem. Once you're talking of handheld, right? When the flash is out of the picture, which was the easiest way to create most engaging content in the world, that suddenly with two guys fighting on a Malno Park is out for the world. Okay, so now that has created a tremendous amount of problems. I'll tell you, look, half of the engaging content making for the mobile has gone like, at least 15 years, 12 years back. And so how to get that thing back in a non-resource heavy manner? That's one of the key challenges, because fundamentally, look, there is not a one stream problem. There's a multiple stream problem. When you talk of online education, it's one stream is teacher, one stream is the resource she's sharing, and one stream is the peer or the 3-4 other guys who are trying to talk in the class. So fundamentally, the competition becomes actually very, very heavy. So your content has to be, first of all, being able to engage with 4 people, 5 people, but at the same time has to work on a processor of a mobile, has to be more so in portrait mode. So I think the perspectives around content are fundamentally changing, and that's why a lot of struggle is there. Like, for example, Uday was talking about the bit rates, etc. I'll tell you, it's a two-edged sword. What if the teacher is sharing PDF? It doesn't work on certain bit rates, right? And it doesn't become very, very clear. So there are so many challenges. I think key future content creation is around if 4 or 5 children are in active conversation and the teacher is facilitating that conversation through a certain resource. How does all these 3 can be managed on a very, very small processor, and with the refresh at least up to 150, 200 kbps if you're using and delivering all that through? I think those are the compulsions around the system today. Today, the compulsion is not around the high-end content. I think everybody shot in 4K cameras and they can downgrade it and put it. But the problem is even like consistent 200 kbps itself leads to 300 Mbps per hour. I'll tell you, you go to Next Learning platforms, app reviews, all 1 stars are because all children are saying it is taking away my Netflix. So problem is those kind of things. So I think content being less heavy, being able to stitch together in real time and the processors of mobile phones, etc., is going to be the way to look at making content. I mean, some ways to think about that.
Yeah. I would like to add one important thing here. So when the learning was happening in classroom. So I've been a teacher for almost 7 years. I taught physics to K-12 kids. So it's very easy when you are in a classroom, students are in front of you. You are actually real-time basis. You are reading the expression or the face expression of a student, whether they are understanding, whether they're getting confused, or do I need to change my the way I'm sort of teaching, or should I need to change the example that I'm taking? A lot of real-time things happens in the teacher's mind. When actually you come on a camera screen, it's not all about like say SD videos. It's all about whether the teacher now are able to sense the mindset of a user who is not in front of them, because the teacher is in front of in front of a camera itself. So I guess it's like so when you come on a camera, it's like you become an actor. So the same script, if Nawazuddin Siddiqui says or Salman Khan says, it's going to be very, very different. And that's where the teachers now needs to evolve in their delivery, the way they deliver the content. It's not going to be the same that they used to have in the classroom. And I guess this is the biggest problem that we in education system we are having right now, because we are talking about school education. How are we gonna train the mass of the teacher, gonna upskill the mass of the teacher to use this technology and deliver the content? And again, the core of the engagement is the teacher or the real-time teacher and the student interaction that happens in a classroom. And I guess the live tutoring has come out as a solution where, like say, through chat layer or through some or means of communication, teachers are able to get the real-time feedback or a sense whether the students are understanding or not. But again, lot of things needs to improve on that part. So we have a very good pool of faculties, and they have a 8 year, 10 years of experience in the offline learning ecosystem. When they come to our ecosystem, it's completely fairly new for them. And it takes us almost 3 or 4 weeks of training to them to make them, understand this whole cycle of student, teacher not present in front of them. So I guess this thing still needs to be taken care, and a lot of things will happen in that direction.
Yeah, but coming back again, that's that part. But then you have so much of content, you stuff you need to put those again. Everything going to be live tutoring?
No, I think a much better version of Unity 3D, which can work on a mobile effectively. Like current Unity 3D on mobile is fundamentally like trying to hope that mobiles become laptop. I think the lighter version of a 3D engine, which can work on a really, really low polygons, right? I mean, is the technology advancement, if you ask me, world is waiting for. Because the whole time the world was working, sorry.
No, sorry. I was just trying to add to this because as we've heard from everyone that, and every day we are hearing this is the new normal, right? I see in the past 4 months, everyone has adapted to something or the new, new things, including school teachers who were absolutely zero in technology, have now started taking Zoom classes and Google Meet classes with all the kids. And now they're pro, and I think just 2 weeks time, they're pro in handling all these activities. Be it as a technology company, we now also know the challenges which companies like you or your employees who are creating content are facing. Also, the artists who are working on creating such contents, me as a technical guy, been talking to all these people, grow up, adapt to this new technology, because this is something which is going to take you to a higher level. But I have seen people being in their own comfort zone for years and years. But now I think this situation has forced everyone to adapt new technology and move ahead and see what's new happening in the industry. And because of that, also, like as you said, something lighter version of a Unity 3D on mobile phone and all is being looked at. Even Autodesk is coming up with solutions which will not be like a multiple product, but everything hand in hand, so that you just have to switch from products to products and then buy product, not just buy, but then invest on you, because that's, I think it's a big also thing which we did touch base, because we've been talking on content, but how do we create content and how much do we invest money on creating those content is also, I think, a big thing. So a better solution in that area is being really looked at least from a larger industry technology players, including Autodesk. We are trying to club everything together so that we provide a solution to the content creators where You don't have to really invest tons and tons of money or look into different softwares, multiple people working on different platforms. So that's going to change a lot in the next, I think, couple of months.
Could you throw some more light, if you'd like to, on that, Samit?
Yep. As Bia said that, lighter, like Unity obviously is like a game engine. Okay.
Sure.
You need 3D content to push into the game engine so that the game, you don't have to render and the game engine performs it in real time. Autodesk has our more flagship products like Maya and 3ds Max. We've been always pioneers in creating 3D content for many years. But then from the past 2 years, we have, every time we used to create new features and push into our softwares. But now from the past 2-3 years, what we have been doing is we've been going to the end users and asking, what is it that you're looking for? Like, what is your challenge? Do you face challenges in a particular area or something in a tool which you feel that, it's your daily bread and butter and you have to struggle to achieve that? Based on that, we have brought in new technology. We have upgraded our tools only to meet the end user's requirement. So what happens is they deliver faster job, they deliver good job, they meet the quality. And we all know that 3D artists have to spend, or maybe have been spending hours and hours in the studio, and sometimes day and night they've been working to deliver content because they are the last person to deliver the job, right? So if they can deliver something much more faster, they will be able to deliver better quality, because at some point of time we are all humans, right? We need the software, the technology to support us so that we can deliver good content and quality which can be at par with the industry requirements. So yeah, and also to when I said we bundled software together, is like Autodesk have always seen that what is it that lacks in our product portfolio. So if you guys have to invest additionally on a third-party software or a plugin, we make sure that we acquire something similar to it, which is at par with the industry, and bundle it with the software so that you don't have to spend 2 or 3 times, buy a software and then additionally invest on plugins, because plugins are really needed. That's a requirement. So we try to bundle it everything so that you just depend on one software and that suffices your whole job. Anil, I think you're on mute.
Somebody else was talking about the challenges in creating content and getting the right ROI on the content, and what are the challenges you'll face in terms of the tools that you're using. Mihan, do you want to address that, the challenges you face?
So there is definitely like challenges around the tools. So how do you create a high quality video content with the simplest possible tools and without as much overhead on having a professional studio, so you can scale that a lot. There is also quantity issue, because in our space where we help students with specific doubts, the question is how you can ramp up your content creation at scale, so you can create thousands of pieces of content a day, not a month. Just to give you context, like every day in India, we are adding tens of thousands of new questions and new answers provided by our community, and we feed that with our expert content. So these were historically the questions that the challenges that we had. So scalability, so we can massively create small bites of content. And second thing is how do you provide quality while you cannot achieve that amount of content being created by having professional studios around the world, and how you can pretty much crowdsource that to people working online. So these are the challenges that we always challenge. There are some great tools, but we've never figured out a tool that would deal with everything to the perfect state.
Now that's interesting. So do you create this content in-house, and how do you do this moderation if it's crowdsourced?
Brainy is a community. So there are students helping each other. So that content is the peer-to-peer user-generated content. On top of that, we add expert content. And within that expert content, we either create text or videos. And on that front, like text, we've built our tools on our own. So I think we are good on that side, and we keep investing in it. But video is a totally different animal here. Like how you create that, it's a totally different level of complexity. And on top of that, to create a very interesting text content, it's quite easy. But to create a video, it's way harder because there is like sound quality, video quality, like how do you stop, when do you stop? And there is also that issue of, when somebody plays a video, you don't really know which part they do understand, which part they don't. Yeah. And there is some data that is provided to show you, hey, how people interact with that, with the piece of content that you've created, but it's never bulletproof, because somebody might have stopped the video at this specific point because they wanted to make a tea for themselves, so to grab some water to drink. Yeah? It's not really correlated with the way students understand the content. So I think on that end, like video is just a challenging format to create. At the same time, it's very rewarding because like a big part of student audience likes video as a way to learn. There is a big bracket that prefers text still, but I think it's because of the shortcomings of video format that is not as flexible as text.
And if I can, how do you identify what content you want to create?
Oh, we look at a number of factors. We look at difficulty, we look at curriculum, we look at demand. So based on this number of factors, we figure out which content to create. And there is much more on our like machine learning and AI side where we get signals.
Yeah, I would like to add a few more points from my side as well. Actually, as most of you guys are having video content, and contrast to us, like we are completely into the text content. Like all of we are just kind of text engine. We are trying to engage a student, parent, and teacher via text content only. We have created a lot of stuff for engaging them, like ranking, like they're providing some kind of feedback system from all sides. You can say 360 side and all. Coming to the content creation, around 3 years back, we had a similar kind of problem, like most of you guys are facing. Like analyzing the content, what will be the level of the content, whether the content will be good for class 5th or the content will be good for class 12th. So identifying the content for different segment, whether this content will be good for say the guy who are having lesser knowledge in class 6, whether this content will be good for them, or the guy who are smart in the class 6, whether this content will be good for them. So for that, we have created a kind of machine learning algorithm, like you can say adaptive learning. Using it, like we have you can say given the you can say some kind of ranking from 1 to 100 for each class. Like so this way we are identifying whether this question, and of course like the ranking will be done on the basis of how the student had attempted this question. Whether let's say, just take an example, if 50% student have attempted the question for a particular level, it means the question level should be you can say 50 or 60 depending upon the you can say algorithm that we are getting. And coming to the content quality, like initially we had totally depend upon the you can say physical persons. Like we had still we have the content team, but you can say like right now we are just you can say 10 people are managing our content, and we have created a virtual you can say virtual person in the sense like we have created some kind of algorithm, machine algorithm, or you can say machine learning algorithm. And now machine learning algorithms are creating content for us, as we are into 3 subjects like math, logical, or English. So we are taking the with the help of dictionary, like we have automated all of our algorithm in such that they are picking the right different word from the dictionary, and they are framing the sentence, they are framing the their you can say solution, they are framing their options and all. Same for maths as well. Like we have created an algorithm so that they are drawing the some kind of, let's say if we need to create a you can say circle, for that we need to have the radius and the center. If you want to create a you can say rectangle, or maybe you can say square and all, we need to have the 4 point. So depending upon that, like we have created algorithm in such a way they are by considering that point and all, they are creating the content. So you can say like overall, like 50% of our content is being created by machine algorithm only. And of course, like we have the person who are validating that whether the content has been created by machine learning, whether it's right or wrong, or maybe we need to modify it, or maybe we may have to make the grammatically correct and all. So these are the kind of stuff we are getting help.
Yeah, yeah, but great. That's great to know that you're doing machine learning to create content. On the other side, pictures work words. So visuals are which really communicate a hell of a lot. What are you all guys doing on the video side? Uday, you know it from practice that visuals work much better than words since you've been on an OTT platform. So
I'm sorry, but I need to run to a different meeting. But
thank you.
Thank you
very
very
much.
It was a great discussion. Have a good one.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye. Yeah. So Uday, from your perspective, creating content which is video content is more engaging. You can have a mix of video content, textual content, and then you can have interactive content.
Yeah.
How much interactivity do you build in? You can have chatbots.
Yeah. So what we have done is we have put together a live streaming classes. And one of the things, the challenges of making sure, we are encoding at 7-bit rate. So any person in the country can watch the content. And we looked at this separately, that how can we give the same offline experience? So we have built interactivity where the master class, the interactivity is done through moderator. So students who ask questions, everything doesn't go to the teacher and create a clutter there. Instead, we have a moderator, and the moderator refines the questions and sends to the teacher. So that way it is interactive. And also we are making sure there is a gamification. There's a leaderboard. So the teacher can ask quizzes then and there itself after the class. And immediately, there is a gamification to show who has, topped that kind of interact. And also, as a master teacher, as I rightly said, all the tier 2, tier 3 wouldn't get any of these top teachers. We put them as a master teachers, but in the evening, we will have his staff going only Q&A, interactive Q&A. We have built our own platform. Things like Zoom or other platforms are very focused on conferencing, collaborative, but not and our technology, the architecture is suitable for the education side. So we built that so that we get a lot of interactive. But having to the point that we're putting a lot of effort on time on creating that video because this content once created is an asset, and the teachers can be reused even in the longer run. If you have a smaller centers, schools in the towns, they can use that. So as you said, video, more interactivity and gamification together creates a very interesting experience, than an offline. And of course, we are not trying to go from 1st to 5th. We are only trying to look at from 6th to 12th classes. And from 6th to 10th, we're creating a foundation courses. So you can't expect a kid from a town or rural area to crack IIT immediately. So we're investing in the long term, saying that, okay, let's put a foundation course from 6th class, give them, and then you hit, these top schools in 11th, 12th. So to answer your question, absolutely huge investment. And we have come from the entertainment space. So the quality of studios, the quality of how to everything should be and to the team here, I would like to tell that Yapmaster, any rural area today, I mean, I've checked with 100 different, we have done bit rates at from 64 kbps up to 2.5 meg, so people are able to watch it. There's no issue. I think the biggest challenge we are trying to address is how we can make it very interactive and very engaging, and education should be more interesting. It should be like, it should not be like a burden. Instead, how we can make it as a gamify this as a learning experience.
Yeah. So, Kaushab, so over to you now. See, in terms of getting the child, let's what a kid today, a school kid. You have a Disney's partnership.
Anil, sorry, I got another call. Is it okay? I have to drop.
If you could be here for a while, it'd be great because you bring a different perspective. If you can stay, if we've got another 20 minutes more, thank you. So, you have a Disney partnership, which is an entertainment, which is the family destination globally. So how much of that, using those characters and, animated characters into your syllabus, creating videos around that, what are the tools you're using for that?
So I think the Disney partnership is fairly interesting. That being said, the TG is slightly different.
I understand. It's 1 and 4.
Third grades, right? I can't really go into the tools myself because I'm not heavily invested in content creation. But that being said, there are two ways we look at the engagement for it, right? And maybe you'll dial back to what you said earlier about how do you keep a child engrossed, right? For us, we have seen there's a fine line between making it interactive and delightful and what a child takes seriously, right? So on this front, what we actually do quite a lot is actually have catch-ups with children. So we're constantly taking our products out to kids, and you'll be surprised at how much kids literally just say, okay, why is he talking to me like this, right? And this is a grown adult speaking in a sort of childish manner and trying to engage the child through a video, right? How we've seen it is that while it's great to have visuals, right? Those are great. You'll see all of Byju's content is rich with visuals, with chart representations and so on and so forth, right? Getting it right is not 100% science, to be very honest. Nobody has the immediate formula, but it needs a lot of iteration. So the Disney collaboration, because it works for lower kids in the first, second, and third grade, you will see a lot of delight elements. So if you look at that product right from get-go, it's bright visuals, bigger engagement in terms of those characters actually speaking out to you, so on and so forth. But if you see that is for 1, 2, 3. And then what I actually handle is everything that comes from the 4th to the 12th grade. And even within that, you will see a lot of grade groups, right? You will see the 4th and the 5th behave differently. The 6th, 7th, 8th behave differently. Your 9th and 10th is a different cohort. And your 11th and 12th, the minute you get there, it does not necessarily imply that you want those visuals out there. They actually want more bite-sized immediate content that is actionable, right? So calling out those big visuals and maybe even the interactive pieces might be a hindrance there, right? So all of these have to be very, very well tested with the end user. And that's where we spend a grand amount of our time just getting it right. So even if you were to build a product for just the 4th to the 12th grade, it can't be one size fits all in terms of the content creation, the quality / the pedagogy that goes into it. Nowadays, the kids are way more reactive to pieces, right? I have been in schools where we have shown what we're trying to build, like a pilot, right? And the kids literally tell me that, okay, who is this character and why is he talking like this, right? Or sing. Why is it that I'm playing so many games? Where is the actual meat of it, right? People who after they've learned a piece of thing can actually distill out, okay, these are all the things that we learned. And you wouldn't know it talking to a 4th grader or a 5th grader that this is somebody who's going to absorb so much information and be very discerning with what he or she wants. So that model has evolved. And I think one of the pieces that I always look back to is this notion of parenting where you're not treating a 10-year-old as a 10-year-old, but what if you have a conversation with a 10-year-old as if he's 15, right? And you give him a little more respect, right? And the kid picks up on these clues, right? You treat a 4th grader as if he's in the 2nd or the 3rd grade, he's not going to take you very seriously, right? But you treat a 4th grader the way that you treat his elder brother, right? Who's in the 6th grade or the 7th grade, right? And you show him content built around that, right? He's immediately going to pick up on it. He's going to take this piece seriously. He's going to engage with it. He's going to say, okay, now you understand me, right? And it's that aha moment where you say that, okay, this platform gets me, right? That all of this effort with content, with the personalization, so on and so forth, actually hits home.
Yeah. So how many of you treat the video content as an asset, which can be repurposed, reused, and how do you all go about ensuring, what, again, coming back again, you said you're not so familiar with the tools. What tools do you all use to, make them more engaging, all of this repurposed content? Anybody can take this up, it's not restricted to anybody.
Anil, I can just take this because I've been interacting with a lot of e-learning companies. So as even Baz said that, earlier it used to be a lot of 2D, like flash things. And then things started moving to 3D. Is basically like you have a character, okay, which you have created of your own, who's coming and talking to the students, maybe. So if it's a 3D, it's a reusable asset. You don't need to draw it every day and make the movement. So 3D is always a reusable asset, and that saves a lot of time and energy, and of course money when you save time and energy. So yes, I think a lot of technology is moving towards 3D, because as even Kaustubh said that their content is more glamorous. I'm just adding some more words, like it's more polished, more glamorous. I think you guys also have designers acting on the content, not just the people who are just creating content, but there could be designers who are putting in efforts to make sure that the color scheme looks good, the characters look good, the entire animation looks seamless, right? That's, I think, everyone like.
So I think there are two parts to that, right? The way that we look at content creation, it's is a mix of pedagogy and media, right? And how we structure it, and which is why I asked Mikhail the same question: how do you identify what is it that you actually build? That comes first, right? What is it that we're actually going to bake?
Yeah.
Then comes what is the right treatment to it from a pedagogy perspective, right? Do I talk about vectors as a straight line with direction, or so on and so forth? There are multiple ways of building that out, right? And then finally, once you baked in that story, comes the media side of things, right? And media is also super particular. They also have their own pedagogy baked in to say that, okay, for vectors would come for the 4th grade, but say like a 7th grader taking on vectors versus the 10th grader taking on vectors, they would treat this very differently. Yeah. So there are all those nuances that go into it, right? From the tools perspective, like apart from the video itself, there are multiple layers that we baked into BTLA, right? And that's Byju's the learning app, and a lot of that is interactive, right? A lot of that is reactive, adaptive. Every if that is out there, we have kind of catered to, and most of that work is done in house. So, sorry, I can't disclose the
no, that's good.
Honestly, I don't know that off the top of my head when it comes to the content of the media studio. But in terms of every other experience that happens in the app, we've got a huge team that just focuses on this.
Great. Thank you very much. I think we're running out of time right now. It's been a pleasure having all of you all. Any other things you want to touch upon, Shamit or Costa or Uday? Anybody else wants to touch on anything else before we part?
I just had one question that was always there in my mind. Like, as I've always been telling, like, okay, I'll talk more about technology. So pardon me in case if you guys. So learning has become more of an indoor activity now, but we always want our kids to be be hanging around with people, with making friends, and learning more about the world. Mm-hmm. How is it going to be restricted to a laptop or this thing, or how can we make it more interesting, more immersive in the near future? Like, any thoughts around it, or you guys have been thinking about it? Or
I think that this is a fairly good question. I wish the CEO of Brainy was here, because I think the peer-to-peer bit could have actually added on a lot here. For us, primarily, we don't see the child in isolation. There is obviously a greater ecosystem there. The way that a child learns is in 3 parts, right? One is your structured learning that happens in school. The second part is your tuitions. And the third bit is any pull that happens at home. And if you look at it, all of those environments have a social angle to it. Even back home, you have your mom who's sitting there and said, have you done your homework, right? Or your friend calling you and you probably discussing your solutions to your JE problems, right? So there is that societal angle, and obviously the tools have to evolve to aid that bit, right? And for us, we don't see, like I think somebody else also mentioned, we don't see this turning back to normal in like 18 to 20 months. How do we do the best in each of those 3 layers to get a child to learn the way that he would if it was the actual normal, not the new normal?
Got it.
Point of view, Uday? The question that Sumit put to you.
Yeah, I think what we are trying to do is, as I said before, try and gamify in a way it makes very interesting for kids while on the live. Creating.
No, we talked this for immersive experience through gamification. How is that could work at only a particular level. Gamification.
See, for example, you have a leaderboard. On a weekly basis, you keep updating the leaderboard every month, and you show that what the top 10 rankers in terms of achieving the test modules or quizzes. Some kind of, along with the interactivity, the gamification is one thing could be very. Keep the students interesting. You see today Dreamline or whatever, Dream11 or any of those sports, related. The gamification is playing a bigger role with that kind of age group. So from 6 to 12, if you create a kind of a competitive, engaging and in terms of a gamification, I think that there should be a lot of interest in kids coming and attending the class, see if they can score. And if they score, there's certain awards students get, some kind of, but ideally, from my point of view, Samit, I think you also asked the same question, is as a student coming from town, from Warangal, what is needed for me? I want to access the best teacher. If I miss the class, I should be able to watch, and it should be good streaming quality. Most important thing is if I have a doubt, specific to, I'm talking about test prep, there should be a teacher who should be instantaneously answer my question. That is one. And I think testing module online, if I write exam, every time I write an exam, I should get a strong recommendation saying that, hey, your calculus is poor, your organic chemistry is poor, as compared to if you want to get into IIT advanced, this is the gap you have. You better take these classes. So I think we're looking at that angle to making sure that a tier 2 town students who can't afford, who can't access these top coaching institutions, we are focusing in that space. And coming from a strong technology background, we have done 2.5G streaming back in 2009. And we also used a platform called FreedoCast. It was a live streaming user generated. We used to have 20 million monthly active in 2009. So I think technology wise, we are quite solid and understand the Indian space. I think we're still trying to understand how the content, video content can be engaging, interactive, how we can be take this to the offline kind of institution, but using a technology, how can be better? But I can tell you in the longer term, I think Anil knows better than anybody else in the OTT space is, unless you have a scale, there could be a lot of disruption in this market. Yeah. And I mean, OTT space, and even today, WhatsApp, Reliance Jio with the pay, what happens to Paytm, so you're already number 3. Now what happens with WhatsApp coming? So this is what is, I see that is going to come out in Indian market in the next 3 years. There's a lot of, either you need to own strong content or a pipe. Between the two, education is also a content. I don't see anything education going different than what we have seen in the entertainment space from an India market point of view.
See, I'm waiting for Jio to play its cards. So Jio has played its cards on the bandwidth delivery space, and when it comes out, I mean, they're just about getting into the e-com space. Let's wait what they do when they get into the edtech space. That's going to revolutionize the way education is done. There'll be live classrooms. I'm going to see recorded, teaching, and real recorded teaching with interactivity, with a lot of animation, 3D, 2D built in. And that's going to be because education has to spread to the masses, and they'll do it through their phones, and they'll do it through their. I see that being a real game changer. While Byju's is doing something very good for today's needs, but the future is going to be immersive, virtual. All that is going to happen. I just hope everyone else in the edtech space is ready for that world, and they're preparing it for it now.
Thanks.
Any comments on that front? Or am I being too very optimistic about Jio's role in education? Because they're talking about telemedicine, they're talking about education.
I mean, if you see Jio's bets on education, I think they've gone with Imbibe, right? And it's very clear what the Imbibe model is. It's to spread it wide because distribution is Reliance's biggest game, right?
Yeah.
And of course, they'll obviously leverage a lot of their channels. No doubt about it, right? And they mentioned that, of course, it comes down to numbers, right? But how I look at this slightly differently is that education, of course, we talked a lot about the content and ensuring that there's distribution on that content, right? Education is moving very rapidly from passive consumption and prevalence of this content everywhere, right? To more curated experiences and more blended learning, right? And there, in that particular space, a lot of good technology can be built out and needs to be built out in the near to mid-term, right? So, of course,
so Woot has already got into the education space. Woot is looking at that. It's got into the education space. That's part of the Reliance group. Sure. So Woot Kids. So just watch out for that action. I'm sure you all guys will have to evolve, transform, be ready for that future. I believe that Uday understands the video part a lot more, and he's looking at that aspect a hell of a lot more.
No, absolutely. I think little known fact, back in 2009, I was also in a company called Geodesic that ran Mundo TV that was in direct competition to Yup TV. And it's lovely to see how Yup TV has evolved over the years. And obviously education is the next big sector. So definitely welcoming more people to this I'd say war at this point of time, right? And there isn't a one size fits all. So there a lot of the earlier questions were about moving into tier 2, tier 3. A lot of people don't look at us as a tier 2 or tier 3 player, but very honestly, that's where a lot of the demand is being driven. There are a lot of, nobody can discount the aspirations of middle-class Indians, right? We all, for myself, I've come from a middle-class family, right? And the only way up was education. And everybody is highly motivated to get their children the best quality education. And it just comes down to who those players are, or who do you actually relate with. So I'm not saying that we sit above everybody else or somebody else sits above us. Everybody brings their own flavors, right? And it's about getting that right in the long run. So.
Thank you. It's been interesting chatting with you all. Samit, thank you for being here. And Uday, as well as Kaustav and the rest of the panel, who apparently they're not used to 2-hour-long webinars, most people. Yeah. But it's something which has become a regular with what we do at Animation Express and at Indian Television, where we have anywhere between an hour and 20 minutes to hour and 45 minutes, where we try to get deeper into every topic that we do. Thank you for being with us, and to the audience and to all of you all. Thank you for partnering us, Autodesk, on this very, very relevant subject. And until next time, this is Anil Banwari bidding all goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anil. Bye-bye, guys.
Thanks, Uday. Thanks. Bye.
Yes.